lovers of coffee and Jesus, y'all. Okay, so first things first, let me make sure the bad boy is working. For a second, I wasn't even sure if it recorded yesterday. I want to clarify a few things that I said yesterday. Just look, this is me constantly doing research and like digging in. Like I never not dig in enough. And one of the things is I was reading some information from the Hebrew background on what the original Hebrew word. I just want to clarify something about the castration, like Daniel and his three little friends may have been castrated. So the more I was digging into the Hebrew word in which it was used for the word eunuchs, usually that was associated with it, but the Hebrew word is actually saris. So I just wanted to kind of correct this. It can mean that you were castrated. It can also mean that you were just a high government official. So I don't know. It leaves it wide open to interpretation as to whether or not they were castrated or not. Probably not, but who knows? And where that word comes from is also in correlation to Genesis, the story of Joseph. And you can actually even see a little similarity in that. The story of Joseph, in which Potiphar, if anybody remembers the story of Joseph, Potiphar, he was also called a saris, or so he was considered a eunuch of the court. And we all know that Potiphar was not castrated. I mean, big story about Joseph and his wife. Obviously, he still had all his parts. So I just wanted to clarify that it can mean possibly both just a government official of the royal court, or it can mean that you were a eunuch and you were castrated. So clarification on that. And that's how I roll. Like I'm constantly always digging and researching. A few other things. Number one, I am not going to be reading the text as slow as I was kind of giving you guys an example for yesterday. I highly recommend you reading that slow whenever you go and read it. Like you just take it line by line by line. And I'm not going to actually like go through and read it like word for word in the text. This morning I was just kind of praying, and I actually posted on part of this is, like what is the beliefs that we have, and based off of some stuff. So before I dive into the text, a few other things that I just really want to clarify for you guys, and why are we going all over, like why am I covering so much history in this? Because there's so many interwoven parts to this. Especially whenever we finish the study of Daniel and I start talking about other things in the Bible, like it's just all interconnected. Only God could connect stuff like that. Just saying. So, chapter 1, which is where we are at, this is very much the historical component of it. Chapter 1 is written in Hebrew, okay? And then whenever we move forward, chapters 2 through 7, so Daniel can be kind of broken up into 3 parts. So chapters 2 through 7, whenever we cover those, it's actually written in Aramaic. It's not written in the original Hebrew text. It's written in Aramaic. Jesus spoke Aramaic. If anybody remembers the Passion of the Christ, Mel Gibson was very meticulous in going back to the original Aramaic, the Gentile languages, in the Hebrew whenever he created that movie. So chapters 2 through 7 is actually addressing what's going to happen with Gentile nations, and it's written in Aramaic, which makes sense because, you're writing to Gentiles, so you're going to write, obviously, in the Gentile language. And then chapters 8 through 12 is written in Hebrew. And we go back to the Hebrew language and literature, in which that's talking about Israel's future. So why am I talking about all this? Okay, so, the language of Babylon was Aramaic. That was a Gentile language, so that makes sense as to why it was kind of broken up and written in the way that it is. It's so imperative to understand who your audience is for some of this. A few other keynotes that I think is very imperative for you guys to understand. Otherwise, you can get really confused because the history can be confusing unless you understand it. So originally, there were 12 tribes, okay? The 12 tribes of Israel, and you had the 10 tribes of the north. The kingdom splits after David and Solomon, okay? And then you have the history of the kings and the chronicles and then the kings. So, but you had 10 tribes of the northern kingdom of Israel, and those are considered the lost tribes. They were put into exile by the Assyrian Empire. When the Assyrian Empire came in, that was about 120 to 130 years before this event that occurs. Because what we're talking about is we're talking about direct correlation with the tribe of Judah. Okay, which is, so you had the 10 northern kingdoms, they go into exile, they're considered the lost tribes. And then you had 2 tribes of the southern kingdom, which was the tribe of Judah. That's where Jesus came from. It's the lineage line of Jesus. And Benjamin. Benjamin was a much smaller tribe. And that's going back to Exodus, going back to Genesis, 12 tribes, okay? So here's the thing. So it's the tribe of Judah in which we get the terminology of Jews. So the Jewish people come from the tribe of Judah. And these are the ones that go into exile. Okay, and they spend 70 years in exile until the Persians take over. The Persian Empire comes in. And then you kind of can go into the story of, King Cyrus, Nehemiah, Ezra, that whole storyline. I think what's imperative, if you have time, so that you're understanding some of the prophecies and some of the prophetic words that were going on, is reading Jeremiah chapter 25, verses 5 through 15. Oh yeah, I got y'all going all over the Bible. Okay, so that's really important to understand what's going on, why they're even going into exile in the first place. Because Jeremiah actually explains why why God's anger and wrath is put against the tribe of Judah, because they did evil in the sight of the Lord. And the key is in Jeremiah chapter 25, verses 5 through 15. I'm not going to dig so much into that today. It's going to come up as we're doing this study throughout the course of the year. So I just wanted to establish some of that. And then, as you're reading Daniel, the part that, so we've established the importance of names. And then, as you're reading, we come to the understanding that, they were of royal family and nobility. Whether or not Daniel was part of King Zedekiah's royalty lineage or not, he may very possibly be a part of the priestly line, which is the line of the Levites. They are the priests that would go into the holy temple, consecrate themselves, and they would pretty much be the one that would be between the people and the mercy seat of God. So it's very possible that he's of either one, but definitely of royalty, okay? A royal priesthood. Paul talks about that. So I just wanted to clarify that. As I'm reading, I think that it's so important for us to understand, the text. Definitely read it. The part that is really coming up for me is the part about, I'm sure just about everybody on here has heard of the Daniel fast. And I think that it's imperative for us to dig into this. The chief of the courts, let's see. All right, so the king assigned, I'm in verse 5. The king assigned them a daily amount of food and wine from the king's table, and they were to be trained for 3 years, and after they were trained, they were to enter into the king's service. So why is that important? They were taught to study under the Chaldeans. And the Chaldeans are well versed in the arts, magic, astrology, divination. And why is that important? Because of what's going to happen with Daniel further down the line. So it's important for you to know that basically they went to college for 3 years and they studied under this. They studied under the Chaldeans. They understood the language. They learned the language because the whole point was to assimilate the exiles of the Jews into the Babylonian culture, which worshipped other gods and everything. So let's get right into this. All right, so among those who were chosen, talks about the guys that were chosen. Verse 8, but Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine, and he asked the chief official permission not to defile himself this way. Now God had caused the official to show favor and compassion and love to Daniel. And the official, so they have a dialogue. And the official feared that basically he would get killed because Daniel wouldn't look a certain way. And Daniel's rebuttal was, kid got some balls. All right, so I'm thinking maybe he wasn't castrated. Okay. Daniel then said to them, whom the chief officials had appointed over Daniel, please test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with the young men who eat the royal food and treat your servants in accordance with what you see. At the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. So the guard took away their choice food and the wine, and they were to drink and gave them vegetables instead. Okay, so let's break this down. We're going to stop here. What's important to understand, number one, is so we've established that Daniel is part of the royal priesthood. He's either under the royalty of the priesthood lineage, or he's under the king's lineage, okay? So what's important is as they're in this, they are learning the Babylonian culture, the religion, the gods, their magic, and whenever it talks about the king's meats and such. Okay, so here's the thing about king's food. It wasn't considered permissible because it wasn't compatible with the Torah law. What am I talking about whenever I say the Torah law? That is referring to the laws of Moses whenever he was on Mount Sinai in Exodus. Okay, it wasn't ritually clean. And one of the things that we need to understand about the meat issue is it would have been considered unclean, and it probably is a portion of food that was sacrificed to the Babylonian gods. Therefore, you got a double whammy of I probably shouldn't be eating this because it's not according to the Torah law, and it is leftovers from sacrifice to gods that are not the God of Israel, not Elohim or Adonai. That's very important. And then the other thing is, people, I really just wanted to land the plane on this of, you hear a lot of people do the Daniel fast, and, when you, really question what the motive is in it. Are you trying to eliminate weight? Because you're not going to do that on a Daniel fast, probably. And the other important point to make is, we think looking super fit and lean is that is societally appropriate. In ancient times, ancient texts, I had done a post on this a long time ago, maybe a year ago, or maybe 6 months ago, in which during ancient times, so this word here at verse 15, at the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished. So the Hebrew word there is actually bari, okay? And that word actually means fatter or plumper. So in the ancient times, to be big meant that you were healthy. Now, not obese, okay? I'm not talking about super obese, but to be plump or fatter, it was correlated with being healthier, okay? So you had two things going on here. They didn't want to defile themselves because the meat had been sacrificed, okay? And this is pre-Jesus, so, and just wanting to keep hold of their identity. Daniel took a stand. How important is it today for you to take a stand for the holiness of the God that we serve? Okay. And number three, I really want you to question your theology on what you think is healthy. Okay? Because people often will do a Daniel fast. They're not even actually fasting. And I'm not judging diets or anything like that. It's actually called the Daniel diet. Okay. Number one, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? And what is the end result that I'm trying to get at this? Am I trying to be closer to God? Am I taking a stand for God? Or am I trying to eliminate something in which, so you see how there's definitely a disconnect in this whole thinking of, number one, it was only 10 days. The diet's like a 21-day diet, 21-day fast, so it doesn't matter where they got the numbers from. I'm just saying number 10 is a very significant number. And number two, fuller and plumper was considered healthier. Okay? So I really just and vegetables are beautiful. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying let's be a vegetarian. I did a 40-day fast one time, and one of the main things that the Lord spoke to me is He did not call me to be a vegan or a vegetarian. I love my meat. Now, sometimes I do fast. Sometimes I do a potato fast. And I'm about to just mind blow you with that. So, all of that tied up in this, it's so important to read the text very slowly, and it's really important to understand the cultural aspects of what's going on in the Word. And you know, we're going to wrap up chapter 1 tomorrow. What's today? Thursday, Friday? We're going to wrap up chapter 1 tomorrow. Like, read along, ask questions. I mean, anything that like you're not certain about or you want to understand a little bit better, drop it in the comments. Like, this is so important to understand what's going on in Daniel, because I am going to talk about other things that are going on in Revelations. And no, I am not a doom and gloomist. Like, I think I have survived over 10 end of the world prophecies, and I'm only 37. I know I look like I'm 17. I know. So I'm not a doom and gloomist. Like, I am so excited about what's going on, because the greatest revival that we have not seen is here, and it's moving, and the Spirit of God is alive and well. And at the end of the day, the Ancient of Days sits on the throne, and He's going to open the books. This is not about judgment. This is about love and compassion, and this is about excitement, and this is about seeing signs, wonders, and miracles. And y'all, whew, ooh, it's like I just had 15 shots of espresso just now, just getting excited about some of the things that we get to see. So finish reading chapter 1. Any questions that you have about it, drop it in the thing. Steph, you had asked me about the prophecies of Jesus. I need a little clarification from you. So yeah, and we're going to finish up chapter 1 tomorrow. Like, just really dig in, understand the context and the ramifications of what it has for today. Okay? I love you guys. Man, just be blessed today. And I'll see y'all soon. See y'all tomorrow morning.